Secondly, that the existing teaching workforce needs to have the opportunity, and more than the opportunity, the requirement to go and attain a similar level of skill. So we suggested testing the existing workforce. Now obviously, one could find good ways of getting into a fight with the union making a statement like this, but let's try and put it in a very positive way, testing people in order to help them to become better teachers, to make sure that the professional development that was available to people would be focused on the areas of need. So if a teacher, I should mention, 75 odd or 76, I forget the exact number, of people teaching primary school science in this state say that they are uncomfortable teaching science, that they don't feel well enough equipped to do so. The figure for maths isn't quite as bad, but it's something like 40 to 50%. So the people in the teaching force know what they need and what they want in terms of professional development. So the second thing was to put in place that testing program, figure out what people need, and provide it to them. Not as something they can do voluntarily, but as something that is part of your future career as a teacher. You will get up to that level across the board. The third thing was the recognition, and I know in the original rules of ANZAAS, and I'm not sure whether it's still there in your vision, but in the original ANZAAS thing, what was really struck me back in 1968 or 69 was the absolute emphasis on getting across to kids the relevance of science. So you mentioned it, I mentioned. So the third thing was, how do we actually make children in the years where they first drop out of science, and somewhere between about year 4 in primary school and year 8 in secondary school, that they're making that decision largely. How do you maintain the curiosity and the joy and the excitement of science through those years, beyond obviously making sure that the teachers have the capacity to do it? And I should mention, excuse me having all these brackets in this, but that's the way it goes. I should mention Primary Connections has been hugely successful. It's an Academy of Science program that was taken up. It's been taken up in Queensland more than any other state in Australia, and basically it's a set of books that you give to the teachers that says, say you're a teacher, I'm just choosing out of blue here, say you're a teacher who doesn't feel confident about teaching science. The extraordinary thing is that teachers in that position, using these books, reading these books and teaching the kids in their classes, have become quite confident. So yeah, the people that it was trialling actually 100% after their second Primary Connections course were saying, now I feel confident about teaching science. So, I mean, it can be done. I'm not sure whether that was a good bracket, but I forgot what it was bracketing in. Any event, so the third recommendation was, in addition to having the teachers capable of teaching the science, the other thing you need to do is to give students an idea of what they might like to do with their science and what they could do with their science. And I think it was you, Mike, that mentioned a moment ago, or was it Nicola, talking about it was you, Nicola, talking about kids, when you ask them, and I often ask them when I talk to 400 or 500 kids that are at some function or in a school or something like that, I say, what's the most important thing that you could do in your life? And they all say the same thing. It's always they're going to solve the environment and a few other things like that. And I say, you're only going to be able to do that with your chemistry, etc. And then we have that conversation. But they don't know that. Their peers and their parents and the community in which they live doesn't, by and large, give them. So the third recommendation out of that STEM proposal is that we put in place much closer interactions between community and industry and schools, so that not only the kids are getting day-to-day examples of the sort of people that are out there doing interesting things with their science to solve problems that kids are interested in, but also that their teachers are getting it, and that other element of professional development comes into play in those directions. There's a few more, and I have gone on long enough. There's a few more things in there, particularly about the fact that when you do all those things, by the way, you better actually pay teachers a competitive wage. It would be a good idea to give them a bit of support around the school, rather than expecting them to tidy up the garbage as well as doing everything else, etc., etc. But all of those things are fairly obvious. I think if there's one area that's going to be the most important in future-proofing, in our future in Queensland, as scientists or as members of the community, that is going to be it. The smart state is going to have a smart education system driven by smart teachers. So, Mike, I'm not sure how ANZAAS will do that, except one thing is clear to me. You're going to have to get a lot of volunteers that are a bloody sight younger than you or me. Nicola is about the right age. You're going to need people who can go out there and excite kids, particularly. I think the youth ANZAAS component of this has got to be vital. We've got to figure out some way to ensure that we get the best. I mean, there are a million different organisations that are in this space. CSIRO's Scientists in Schools is also stronger in Queensland than any other state now, but whilst strong, it is still 11%, I think, of schools have scientists in them. The Science and Engineering Challenge, originally out of Wollongong University, is very strong in Queensland, but it's less than 10% of our students get to attend it. Organisations like Questacon, that sort of organisation. The things that are being generated around the new institutes, like QIMR and the Translational Research Institute, a lot of the institutes at this place and at QUT are developing training, developing programs to bring students into those institutes as part of their operations. They're very important aspects. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of them. ANZAAS there is no integrating force. There's nothing that brings together. Oh, there's the Academy. You're a member of the Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering, the Youth Ambassadors. Those sort of, there are lots of those initiatives, and I'm sure you all know more. There's a great one, there's a couple of great ones here, Bright Minds, and a couple of others around this university. In any event, we're going to find some way of moving from a hit rate of 10% or less for any of those things for our children and grandchildren, and find a way of reaching 100%, and not just in the metropolitan area of Brisbane, but in the tip of Cape York and around the rest of the state. Now, but did you guys want me to launch ANZAAS while I was here? I pronounced